right. Welcome back to the 32nd episode of the Magnetic Podcast. Very simply named after the company that I get the pleasure of being CEO and founder for during the day. That's where I punch the clock at Magnetic. Today we have on TJ Allison. TJ is let's just call it for lack of a better term, architect could be that. That's a fancy term. You're a revenue and sales architect. A lot of people call it fractional CRO. I call it, you're a solopreneur who's got a badass consultancy where you specifically serve founders, technical founders in a specific revenue niche. And I think if there's any advice I can give to anybody at any time that I've learned, it's that the riches are in the niches, and do not be afraid of those niches. TJ, welcome to the Magnetic Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Steve, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, let's cut into it. I always say, we can go through your background. That's great. We're going to tell them where to find you afterwards. Let's get right into the meat and the potatoes. TJ, what's the worst part about your job?
The worst part about my job. Oh, man. Putting myself out there, and you talked about the niches. I've had a pretty uncomfortable process of owning my niche at the beginning. It was really scary. I try to bring in, and this is a little bit, I guess, wacky, but mindfulness coaching into my work with founders, because I'm working with technical
DBT
founders who are, say that again?
Are you doing DBT work?
Not DBT, but meditation. I bring meditation into my sales coaching practice, and I get totally insecure about putting it out there online. And then when I meet clients and prospects, they actually really, really appreciate it and love it. So it's that kind of uncomfortable growth thing that's a little bit hard.
Yeah. You're finding your tribe, man, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you could even probably go call yourself and don't do this, not that you would, but the Buddhist sales trainer. And you get a lot of people who are just like, that's my guy. And
Exactly.
I think a lot of people are afraid to be themselves. And so even if they're an extreme, call it Christian, they're like, well, I don't want to go be it. Who cares? Just wave your freak flag. I think that if anything on LinkedIn, we now have space for people to start to open up and say okay, this shit's kind of boring. We all sound the same.
Mm-hmm.
Who the fuck are we? And fuck our shadow self, this real self, the good, the bad, the ugly, not the Facebook, not the Instagram. It ain't going to happen because it's LinkedIn. But I think what it does is it provides a window, TJ. And I want you to crawl through that window with me right now. A window.
Okay.
Yeah. You like that? There's like a radio
like
DJ in the 80s. We're going to crawl through the window. And I think those people who have niches can stand out because everybody will take a breath of fresh air and say, I don't care what else is going on. I only really follow my feed, and I follow people who are relevant to my niche, my space, and I don't hear the other noise. And it's still pleasant in those niches. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, the world is a pretty big place. And in order to have a perspective on something, in order to have an opinion about something, you have to choose your lane. You have to choose where you're focused. This is something that I work with founders on all the time, is following their hunches, following their hypotheses, and going after their target market, going after their business, and trying to prove themselves wrong, so that they can learn and go through the process. And I've done it myself. And
so you're sort of a guru, a coach. It sounds like
That's
you're
right.
as much a guru and as a coach as okay. So do they know that's what they're getting? Or do you make that pretty clear? Because I'd love to see one of your discovery calls, man. I'm super curious.
Yeah, absolutely. They ask what I do. I make it very clear I'm not an operator. I'm not out there selling for them. That my product and service is designed to be pretty lightweight in terms of time and investment, at least compared to bringing on a full-time employee. And what I do is my belief is that founders have this superpower of sales. They're the only people that can really make comments and promises about what's going to happen, and they're close to the creation process. Not to be borderline religious, but they're creating something, and that's intoxicating for other people to work with. So I give them the confidence that people want to talk to them, that it's invigorating to talk to them, and to go trust their gut in who it is they can be serving. And I'll stop there, but the service
We're
element's a
saying a
really
lot of words that
important
resonate with me.
piece for me as
Serving,
well.
podcast earlier today, we were even talking about love and these words that we aren't used to in, call it B2B. And I think this is perfect because I go, great, because the other shit wasn't working. And so this now is an interesting era. You just jumped in the water on content. Why did it take you so long? And did you do it out of necessity to drive your business, or did you do it out of an urge to create? You mentioned more like this almost cathartic, this religious process, which I believe it absolutely is part of being human, is to create. I mean, that's how we got here. Someone created us, and we create every day. And I think it's very much a part of what everybody's day should contain. As much as stretching, they should have creativity. When did you
Yeah.
start that journey? What was it like? Did you shit your pants? And what was your first post like? Do you remember that?
Oh, my first post was probably some kind of stream of consciousness, wax poetical on sales. I was at a business sales impact academy. I remember specifically when I made it. I started last year really intermittently posting when I was uh, inspired, I guess, and
Yeah.
when I had something like an idea that was kind of burning and that I wanted to write about. I do
Yeah.
write in my free time, so it lends itself well there.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's scary. It's scary. I was totally checking it often and worrying about when I made my first one. I was like wondering what my boss was thinking. Like, what's this guy doing making kind of like general philosophical commentary on LinkedIn? He's
Yeah.
just supposed to be selling my e-learning
He's
software.
fired.
Exactly. No one thought that. No one cares. Actually, people like to hear who you are, but it's totally a
Yeah.
scary thing.
Yeah. Well, TJ, I'm going to switch it up on you here real quick. What is working right now for you with the clients you're working with? What are you seeing working? And I'm sure you're going to say it depends. Well, tell me a couple versions of what you're seeing working out there, especially in regards to content. I would love to hear about that, or even outbound in general,
Yeah. Okay. Um,
or inbound systems. Sorry, I don't want to limit it. Let's call it sales and marketing.
sure. Okay. So content in specific. What's working? What's working for me? And gosh, I'm just starting to do this, but having a little bit of a recap for myself on my day, on my week, planning
Yeah.
my next day, not only in terms of like to-do lists and what did I get done, but what did I learn?
Yeah.
Um, because since I am operating as a coach, I've got these pretty heart-bearing one-on-one conversations going, and there's
Yeah.
amazing stuff that comes out all the time that can be repurposed and used in content. But if I don't give myself the time and space to reflect on it, then I don't have that kind of bank.
Yeah. I think you should get that kind of bank.
I
I think
think
that'd
so
be
too.
really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I think that'd be
Well,
a very popular YouTube channel. Is just like the excerpts from those conversations.
how do you? Yeah, you're in this world, Steve. So how do you like advise somebody go about doing
Yeah.
that? Like I have an iPhone Note that has basically
Mhm.
headlines in it, but
Yeah.
I don't do anything else besides that. Like how do you create a system?
Yeah. And believe it or not, this was not staged, but I'm going to show you at least how our latest system and sort of where we've arrived when we think about creating content, because we have clients who come in and they want to create content. And of course, they naturally want it to create revenue, right? And we also say that, hey, that's what we love to do. And so we actually started when I got really curious on YouTube. This is a tool called vidIQ. And I just go look at something real simple, which is I go see what are people actually asking about online. And then I go, well, instead of me thinking I know what they're asking, what if I typed in, what would be a keyword that you would want to enter if someone was trying to get to you, TJ, on Google?
Founder-led
Founder-led
sales,
sales consultant.
founder-led sales, just founder-led sales in general.
Founder-led sales. Look at that. Okay, so I always go, okay, the search volumes, it's okay, it's medium. The competition's very low, meaning that if you were going to pay for ads here, it wouldn't be that expensive. But now we would go, okay, so what are they actually Googling? And I say, this is where I'd go. I'd talk about how to build a sales team. And I go, okay, what are the subtopics under that? How to hire and build a high performing sales team, how to build a world class, how to build a commission based sales team, how to build a sales team from the ground up. And I'd say, I normally wouldn't talk about these subjects, but apparently they'd love to find answers or at least my take on it. And then I'd look at every question here and say, this is exactly what I'm going to answer. And I'd then go look at matching terms that are around that. And then I'd go look at related keywords. And I'd say, hey, I'm going to go, how to hire your first salesperson. When is the right time to hire your first salesperson? Why you shouldn't hire a VP of sales? Why you should hire a VP of sales? And I'd do all of that. And I'd really go, this search that's big right here, as you can see, is sales. Well, I'd niche down and go, I'd go how to build a sales team from the ground up, because the search volume is medium, the competition's medium. But as you can see, there's not a lot of topics that are driving up. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And at the bottom, it then gives me the videos that could be just like that I can go research to then go make my content and almost steal their video and just make it better. So I start there because there's a lot of things I don't know about. Like if someone's invoice factoring or a manufacturer, I don't know. And so I can write a banger post, but does that really matter? And then the other things I'll just dovetail off of here that are really, really important for us is we recently released software, TJ. So we released Magnetic Mail, and that is essentially for all intents and purposes, LinkedIn automation, but we use it in a very authentic way. And we're composing all those sequences, loading those people in the back. And so we believe that the content and the stack that goes outbound is the way to go. And there's one more thing I want to show you today, because TJ, this is worth talking about. And I think there's nothing better than a conversation with two people talking about what they love to do to be interesting. So I'm going to share out a tab here. This is called Score App. I was listening to a podcast. Do you ever listen to Think Media?
No, not that one. There's so many podcasts. I'm like overwhelmed by it.
Definitely follow that one. There's this company. It was founded and it uses AI, and I don't like a lot of AI tools. I like some, I don't like everybody, right? And I would love to find a different way to prospect that actually worked, that wasn't gift cards, right? And I saw this and it actually made sense that if you put out a quiz that was called the LinkedIn Content Quiz, let's see, this wasn't working earlier. I think I got to open it up in the other window. Hold on one second. I'll show you this, and I think you'll be happy I did, because this is something that I'd want to share with you. I'd want to share it with everybody, because I'd say, hey, I don't think anything's ever private or my secret sauce. I mean, this is a software company, and I'm pulling it up, and now I'm doing that thing where I'm trying to multitask. Here we go. We're there. We're going to share it out. Okay. So what we did is this morning, share this tab instead. I wrote a newsletter that I write every week, but instead I said, I'm going to give everybody a quiz, right, in the space. And I know that within my space, I have founders, CEOs. I have 8,242 CEOs in my niche that follow me on LinkedIn. Okay, great. So I want them to answer this, but other people could. And so we put this quiz out there, and it says, this is the 2024 Magnetic LinkedIn Content Quiz. All right. So follow me. I didn't do this. AI did this. So we went in here, and now we're collecting data, right? And so I am just going to bring you through these questions, and then I'm almost done with the show and tell. But are you digging this?
Yeah, this is cool.
Wait till I show you what's about to happen. So then I go, okay, now think of your own self with founders, right? What questions would you ask them? Do you share valuable content? Yes. Are you utilizing this? No, I am. Do you regularly engage? Yeah, I wish I did, but I didn't. Have you experimented? Yeah, I did and didn't work. Are you consistent? Yeah, I'm pretty consistent. Have you done? No, I don't know who they are. Wish I did, but I don't have time. Do I have measurable goals? I don't have that either.
Most people don't. Yeah.
Do you analyze it? Shit, I don't even know where to find it, right? No, that's why I'm taking this damn thing. And then at the end of it, I find out where I stand. And everybody is curious now. And now I've included a YouTube video here that is a bonus. Hey, I'm going to give you this 4-minute video. It's how to add Linktree to your LinkedIn. So people, instead of clicking the book appointment button and going to Calendly, they go see all your other content. And then they can book a call. Now, out of that, this is the really interesting part. This is exactly the data that I got. So if you look at that, how many leads did we get out of this? 17, right? Insights say 21 people started, 20 people finished, 73 people visited it to take it. So that means a lot of people didn't. And then I could go look at the question performance and then go send this data out to everybody who took it and give them the answers broken down in these buckets, right? So now it becomes interesting. I'm giving them value. You took this, this was the average, this is where you stand. Now I can use automation to trigger that to now automate my sales automation tool based on their score to then send, if you scored this to this, you get this email, this to this, you get this email. And I can do that all right within this tool. And this is being sold to marketers. And I was like, wait a second, this is a sales tool. It's a sales and marketing tool. But the fact that I got here and I got the leads, I wanted just to point that out to you is this is working for us, meaning I don't know if a single one of these people is going to buy what we're selling. But I know that this guy has been in the funnel for 9 months and he's 47% on his score. He needs us.
Yeah.
I've now got evidence and he's got evidence that he needs us. Taking 42 minutes to write this in AI for a $142,000 contract might be worth it. I don't know who this is. I don't know who this is. And we'll grade this out on the podcast, but I don't know who any of these people are besides 3 of them. And that's awesome. So anyways, I digress. Obviously, I'm excited about it. We haven't had a chance to follow up with anybody about it, but you know where I got the idea from that?
Where's
Liquid
that?
Death.
A podcast.
Well, yes, the podcast.
Really?
Well, the idea of ideating, right? You have so many services that you could offer, right? You could be busy all day. You could open divisions but what if you just polled your prospects and your clients? And for example, you're like, hey, how much are you spending on ads today? Is it working? Do you wish it worked better?
Mm-hmm.
If you could leverage those funds in other ways where there was more predictable ROI, is that something that's appealing to you? Have you tried TikTok? Ask them. And then you get this data and you're like, man, I've got 62 people here who are all engaged enough to take a quiz. At a minimum, this is better than cold email. So that's the kind of stuff that I get up at 3:30 in the morning and just get fucking juiced for, man.
Well,
Because
I really like that.
I love showing people that and going, try it, man. Let me know if it works. And if it works for me and it works for you and it works for everybody, fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
And
that was very helpful to kind of look to see the related search terms off of a specific topic. That is something, you started out with something that you feel passionate about or that you work with every day, and then to kind of evolve from there. That's really, really, that's really helpful.
Yeah. Have you explored YouTube at all, TJ? I know a lot of people are dipping their toes in the water.
I haven't. No, I haven't. The content creation I've done so far has all been like, I would say, short to medium form writing.
Okay.
Writing LinkedIn posts. It's I have a little bit of a build in public strategy.
We're going to have some fun here. What do you think people are going to search then? They're going to search founder-led sales?
Maybe. I've looked a little bit. There's not that much content on there. Yeah,
Founder-led sales. Okay, well, if there's not a lot of content, you're in luck. So, okay, now I'm going to sort this. And this is kind of a training for everybody. By the way, this is a tool I use called vidIQ. This is awesome. I'll get into that later. Founder-led sales, highest views. It just tells you everything right here. Average views, average subscribers when someone's talking about this. How many have been added the last 7 days? None. It's wide open. So
okay,
I would go here and say, well, I'm a big fan of TK. So I'd say I'm going to look at TK's video and see what they score it. And they're going to come in here and score it and go, okay, how would I do this? And I go, okay, I'm going to ask my AI coach and we're going to get an idea based off of this. And then we're going to take that idea, use that idea, and then write a script for me based off of this idea. Some people would call that stealing. I would call it stealing. I also would say that if you looked at the people who are in your search category, the biggest view is 29K. On the topic of founder-led sales, you could own this category. You could own it in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And you could own it because Lenny's podcast, he's got good people on there. Jen Abel, great. I'm sure she's great. Don't know who she is. Nobody here is a household name, right?
Yeah.
Simon Sinek, of course, on a short, great, right? TK Trader's owning this space right now. Guess what? He's getting clients from YouTube every freaking month.
Yeah,
because he's the only one on there.
I know of TK. I actually used to use his tool Tout App that he
Tout
created.
App, baby, yeah. OG.
That was a while ago, and then I've met Pete I've met Pete. He
Yeah.
wrote a book on founder-led sales, but that's like 8 years ago.
Yeah. You should
Yeah.
host a podcast once a week. You should automate your funnel with the survey about the podcast that I just showed you. You should then take that, clip it up into micros. You should then hire a small team to get your YouTube channel fired up, topicized, have it keyworded so everybody's looking for the right things. Get great thumbnails, and I think you would absolutely kill this channel.
Yeah.
And I love those tactical breakdowns because how else do we learn? Like the fact that you have a wide open space that on LinkedIn is very clogged, and a lot of people are talking about founder-led sales. Barely anybody's talking about it on YouTube.
Yep.
Yet, are you familiar with the company Founder?
No.
FONDR.com. They have a weekly podcast. They are a media company, and all they do is founders. And they have like Richard Branson on and like the big founders. So I'd say that's a different niche. That's the Alex Hormozy founders, right? Like I want to be rich and drive cars and have muscles and wear nose strips.
Yeah.
But that's not me, right? And so everybody's going to go find their space. I think if anything, TJ, like let's explore this idea. I'm going to challenge you a little bit. If you were to go on YouTube, what would you want to talk about the most? Like what is the topic that gets you most excited about the work you do from a curiosity standpoint on a day-to-day basis?
I think it's getting over the hump of putting yourself and your service out there.
Yeah.
What the best people do to give themselves resilience in the process of selling, and this comes back to the topic that you and I were discussing earlier, in my opinion. But it's like, where's the service element? Who are you serving? Who can you help? What can you unlock by growing your business? And who are you there to serve? I think there's a way that we can kind of hijack our sense of purpose so that we have more courage, basically.
Yeah. Hijack our sense of purpose. So like people are talking about agency a lot, right? Walk me through that word. It sounds like we can go a little bit deep here. This is great. So let me turn the rich roll mic on here and let's go deep, TJ. So emotional elasticity is not something that a lot of salespeople are born with. They have high EQs a lot of times, right? But when shit hits a fan, we've not been trained to not get what we think is ours. It ain't yours yet. The deal wasn't lost. It wasn't the best solution for them. Walk me through that, because I think it wasn't yours to begin with, because we get very possessive, very masculine in sales.
Well, so my world, the world that I operate in is in this world of founders who are early and selling their own product. So not necessarily like your traditional salesperson. And so the version that they encounter there is that their identity gets pretty wrapped up in the product and service that they're out there selling. And they then
take it personally.
And they take it personally, and they get discouraged, just like anybody would. And so they start to shut down, and they start to lose their resiliency in the process, and they lose their curiosity. And you know what? I'm not going to pretend like you can have a mindset trick that will help you take any product or service to market, because some things like don't need to exist. Some things aren't competitive enough. They're not compelling enough. And that's a fact of the matter. But what I keep coming back to in this world of entrepreneurship is that the people who succeed are the ones that don't give up. They don't stop. And so the ability to maintain the curiosity, to go through the resiliency and get beat up enough times, well, it leads you to the thing that people do want. And sure, you've got, the brothers from Stripe and Mark Zuckerberg and other people that are total exceptions to the rule, that just come out the gate swinging with a product service platform that people need. But the majority of us entrepreneurs out there, we start out with a hypothesis that's like 70% right, or maybe 30% right. And we get beaten to hell through the process until we have something that people really like and has testimonials and that we can go take to market. So that was a long, meandering answer to your question, but
let's dig into it. I've done some DBT work myself, and found that it allowed my response time to get some space, which was really good. Sort of that mindfulness piece that you spoke about. I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody would love to be more diligent in the way we respond in emotional circumstances, especially in startups, because there's always something to get emotional about. How do
Yeah.
you work with your founders and train them on how to live in that tension and get something good out of the other end? Because I'm a big believer, and we might disagree on this, which great. That tension is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, what's coming up for me, at least right now, and what I practice with my customers is just a sense of honesty. I
Yeah.
just say what's on my mind.
Yeah.
I had a customer call, a new client call earlier today, and I had built a pretty good relationship with one of the founders. It's a two-founder business, and I'm starting with them in 10 days. I'm going on vacation with my wife, and I'm starting with them in 10 days after I get back.
Did they find
We
you
got
on LinkedIn?
They did find me on LinkedIn. One of my clients posted
Hey,
an unsolicited testimonial on his own page about me, and I got
nothing
a
beats
bunch of
that.
inbounds from it,
Yeah.
which is really cool. I never had that happen before. And anyway, we're in a call, and I'm like, I'm going to be honest. I've been feeling a little bit weird. Where I'm starting with you guys, and I've only met like 50% of the founding team, so I feel weird that we're starting together. It feels a little bit off to me. So it wasn't the most graceful way to start a call, but
Hmm.
and introducing doubt, totally contrarian, counterintuitive to what you'd normally do in a sale.
Yeah.
But it was what was honestly going on for me emotionally, and that's what I teach founders to do um, to follow a process that we can build together. But dude, if something's coming up, just do it and be a real person and ask about it, and it clears the air and it introduces that sense of presence and mindfulness.
Yeah. That reminds, I don't know why it does, but it reminds me when I was, I don't know, probably young, 20, 24, 22 years ago. I went to a real estate thing thinking I was going to be a realtor. And the guy who was speaking was talking. I was really into it, right? Because he was motivating us. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to fucking sell 1,000 houses. And he said, now I'm going to tell you something. And I'm not ashamed of this. He's like, when I was speaking out, he went on to say about like that at the fucking, I don't know, the Dallas Cowboys football stadium in front of a bunch of people. And it was this big event. And over the monitor, his mom was in the hospital and said, Mike, your mom has passed away. And he said, I didn't look at it. I just kept going because I wanted to give the people what they came for. And I was like, dude, like, I don't live that way. Like, I can't
Yeah.
operate like Jekyll and Hyde. I am not
Is
crazy.
that supposed to be a good thing that we want to aspire to be like? I don't know if I agree with
I don't
that.
agree at all. I mean, I remember hearing it and being like, yeah, like terrified, like, woo, like kind of
Like,
that
is that who I'm
thing
going
where
to
I was
become?
like, no, man, like, I can't do that. Like, if that's what it takes, then I'm not in this. And that was a while ago. Right. But there was thousands of people there going, yes, and I remember thinking like, that makes me sick.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit of a groupthink piece
He said,
there.
well, what was I going
Um,
to do in that moment? Nothing I can do. I was like, well, besides be
yeah,
a human being and react and respond and be emotional and grieve. Nope, just
yeah,
keep going, keep making the money, keep us comfortably numb in our craft, right? Which is as we could go down that hole, and it's very easy to do, right? For founders to get very, you mentioned kind of interwoven with their product, their solution, their company. What do you
yep,
do to help separate them from that so they have an identity that, regardless of how their business does, it is its own cherished private thing at home?
yeah. Um, whew, that's a good question. I'm not going to actually pretend as though I have a solution for separating themselves from it, because I do understand why they get so tied up in what they sell, and
Yeah.
I do too. I sell myself, so I absolutely get that. What I do is I ask them like what they do nourish themselves, what they do to what does recharge their battery, and I challenge them to do more of it because
Mm.
um, for most of us, that go on to try to make something, create something, are pretty intense type A people, and I tend to
Yeah.
think like more is more all the time. And so if I'm feeling behind or whatever, I'm going to add on more. I'm going to add on more. I'm going to add on more. And sometimes it needs to be a quality over quantity thing. And sometimes I need to have a day or a weekend to go spend quality time with people, get some time in nature, and then come back refreshed and creative
Mm.
to go really after it. But it's so easy in a fear-based mindset to forget that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I asked them that. And then there's a whole discussion kind of on prioritization and values there too.
Yeah.
It's um, sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to push
Mm.
through, and other times you're just running scared.
Well, I think I want to talk to you too, and let's get out of the weeds a little bit into the grass. Founder-led selling is its own thing, and I think that it seems like that's a space that you hang out in. Um,
That's right.
Talk to me about that. Is it a specific founder-led playbook that you're implementing? Is it emotion? Is it experience that you're bringing to market? What is that that's working so well?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so there's a few different pieces of a sales process that I will bring typically to my customers. First is an analysis or an exercise to go through their persona and ICP. This is something that I
Hmm.
think most people underestimate the importance of positioning, of describing who you are to whom, and also being able to say really confidently who you're not. So I take them through an exercise where we break their business up into verticals, and we come up with really strong statements for their different personas. Um, that's how we start. That's how I start everything that I do. Is to start working through. Hey, are you speaking to your intended audience in a way that makes sense? And I bring 10 years of early stage
Hmm.
sales experience to that, of having done that myself. So that's
So talk to me.
that's where
How
we
do you
usually
prove that
start.
out? I'm very curious. How do you prove that out?
How do you prove out those statements to see if they work?
The messaging, right? So, like, oh, the messaging's dialed in now. We know it is. Like, is there a certain KPI that you're looking for, or a result, or is it just, hey, revenue's coming in, it's working?
Yeah, usually when I start with businesses, usually they are experiencing a challenge in one specific part of their funnel. So usually it's like maybe they're having difficulty getting meetings on their calendar to begin with, or they can get them, but they can't convert them, or they can sign up
Mm.
pilot or design customers, but they don't convert into paid customers after that. So there's
Mm.
usually an aspect
Yeah.
of their funnel that we are zeroed in on in specific,
Yeah.
and I will usually come back to the positioning or some structure of one of those interactions or meetings that needs to be fixed. And these are usually technical founders I'm working with um, that don't have the context on these.
They don't know how to, they
What
don't know
salespeople
a
would
sales
often.
process, right?
That's exactly right. Yep,
Yeah, that's
that's
okay.
exactly
And
right.
because I don't know how to make software either. And and
Yep,
and so I'd say part of the challenge of that for an engineer is you know the product, you know exactly what it can do. That is a different
yep,
talk track than a salesperson selling it. So that transition of message between I'm the lady or the man who invented this to I'm the sales rep with the quota, and my job is to go explain to people what this does, and if it's a fit, great. If not, see ya. Those are two different messages. So when and where does a founder-led message change from founder saying it to now we're going to have someone else say it? Because to your point, that sucks. Nothing works. Nothing sucks worse. And I've done it only once than being the early stage sales rep for a founder with an ego. It is
it's tough.
not advisable.
Well, I guess I would kind of push back a little bit on that dichotomy that you created there, to say that I agree that the founder is oftentimes really focused on the solution, but the salesperson just explaining, hey, here's what we do and here's who we do it for. Sure, you need to have that elevator and the ability to do that well, but the part I'd push back on is um, not just explaining, but about curiosity and being consultative, and really good high level salespeople will be really early to say, hey, this isn't the right thing for you. Here's why I don't think this is going to work. Or they will say, they will be very curious to learn so that they can serve that person that they're speaking with. That's a piece that founders oftentimes miss. They go cart before the horse. They're really, really focused on the solution. They're really focused on over explaining what the product does. They don't take the time to learn about the person that they're speaking with, what's important to them, and make them feel cared for. And like the sale is consultative. So we work a lot on that too.
That's good. I can see it I can see them listening right now, taking notes, being like, this is my guy. Because not everybody can work with a technical founder. You have to be able to work in that dynamic. And I would just say, like, is it your personality that allows you to translate this for them and sort of be that guru? God, this is getting exciting for me. Like, I just want to niche you down so much. I want you as a client. Like, I want all the selfish things in life right now, just because there's just none of you out there right now.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm a nerd. I think I'm a geek myself. I think I like to go pretty far down the rabbit hole into minutia, and I think that gives me the ability to communicate well with
Yeah.
technical founders. And I love technology. I love to know how the product works. I will. That's how I get a lot of appointments. I go to technical founders. I start asking them an obscene amount of questions about how their product works and why it
SOC 2
works and how they came
compliance.
to their
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, and then they're like, wow, this guy's kind of annoying. Like, I got to get on a call to answer his questions. And then that's how I get a lot of my appointments.
Yeah. So how often do you look forward to the future and start to think about what your business is going to maybe be like? Maybe, because life is going to happen in 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years.
Oh, pretty often. I do a lot of calls with people and I do a lot of calls with other people that service the same market as me, and everyone asks me that. So, but yeah. Are you wondering where I think it's going to go? Is that what you're asking?
Just your own business. Yeah. Where is this business going to go for you? Where do you want it to go, I should say?
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I'm focused on building my onboarding process, and I'm adding new revenue streams. So now there's some tools and tech that I bring to the table. I use Dripify, I use Clay, and I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and I bring those to all my customers. And so I'm starting to build some like referral agreements with those businesses, and I
Yeah.
bring those in. I'm excited about that, and I'm starting to
Very, very
employ a few
smart.
contractors to do
I would think you would kill it in
to
the
build
affiliate
some
space.
automations for the founders that I serve, so that cool stuff like they get a ping via Slack when somebody visits their website, or they get a ping via Slack when
Yeah.
a new persona joins in their target title at one of their target companies. And I'm basically trying to turn one person into the ability to do what 5 people can do,
Yeah.
so that they can get to scale. So
Yeah.
I'm adding those additional services into my world,
Yeah.
and
We got
building
to
those
talk, man.
automations that
You guys got to use magnetic mail. It would be awesome to automate sort of that connect into the ICP, and then that drip conversation over time. There's some cool things there that I think could be really awesome for your clients. And I mean, for us, like we looked at LinkedIn automation software, and when I first used it 3 years ago, I was like, "Fuck this! I'm never doing this." And then I saw it work, and then I saw it was really about the messaging itself, the cadence of it. What are you asking for? What are you delivering? Like, how nuanced is that little DM? And we found when we polled our customers about 3 months ago, they said, we love that. We make so much money off of Steve's sequences he writes in the DMs. And I said, well, I've studied it a lot. Like, I've studied the psychology of DMs versus email, and it is different. And the frame of mind someone is when they get a DM at 5 is different than when they get an email, because they can just ignore it. When they get a DM, it feels intrusive. And is that the only time to intrude? So go for it anyways? Is that the time to send a voice note? Like, I go all in on the LinkedIn strategy just because I look at it like I don't have to worry about email warming, this and that. Like, I've got a content stacked into the same people I'm trying to connect to. Like, if you're a male, 25% of them are going to see your stuff. If you're a female, just the data, 40 to 60% on average. And I'd rather have them see me on the front page of their newspaper every day than get into their inbox. That's just kind of how I've learned that this has worked. It's how we produced $1 million more of revenue in the last 3 years. And Now we're focused on other things because now we just go, well, we just took on an investment round. How do we crank that up, right? How do we now take this business that normally would be services and say, we now have a piece of SaaS where we can provide all that for people, find a price point that's reasonable and go out and say, hey, TJ, $400 a month, 500 contacts. We load them up. We automate them. We're going to connect. We're going to write the content 12 times a month for the founder. Like that's the kind of things where I'd say, well, that's one option. You know, is that the option we're going all in on, or is it all the other 10 things, TJ, you have in your arsenal? What is the number one thing you think right now that you're being brought in to solve? What's the consistent problem that you hear more than anything?
Oh, gosh. Somebody with a technical background who's scared to sell. Oftentimes they've built something pretty awesome and they're scared to sell it. That's what it boils down to.
That's hard. Yeah, because it's yours, you know?
Yeah.
And then someone might say something bad about it. And now you got to go, oh shit, it's my baby.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And what we're trying to get to is they're a place where they can confidently hire other salespeople, and they feel, or salespeople in general, right? That they can feel confident passing their baby on.
Yeah.
And it's expensive to hire salespeople.
It's really expensive.
So
yeah,
that's the end goal that we're getting them to. But the immediate problem is that they're actually not in it themselves. If they were in it themselves deeply and they were really, really, really full-time selling, they would be able to teach somebody else how to do it.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. I think another thing to think about too, if you're a founder listening, and we'll get to the wrap up questions here real quick, is I would look at it and say, hey, maybe you should just go listen to my last 4 sales calls and start there. You know, and you'd probably have enough to talk about for the next 6 months. That single thing getting better can now be the lever to 10x my ROI into you.
Yep.
One lever, right? There's multiple levers, like mid-stage funnel. What are you doing to follow up? Do you automate? Do you personalize? Do you deliver content? And you pull one of those little levers, like reduced deal cycle time, increased deal value, whatever it is, longer LTV, right? You're now value, it's just compounding. And that's when I say, when people hire consultants, they pay 5, 7, 10, 12K a month, whatever. I'm like, if you're good, that is nothing. Like, I don't want to charge someone 15, 20, but I'm going to make you 100 grand, like 150. If you just are patient enough, like just talk to me about the founders who hop from consultant to consultant is what I'm getting at. And they go like, hey, I've worked with 7 of these people. Like no one's ever able to do it, TJ. I'm sure this is going to be the worst too. Like, do you ever get those people who come in who are just very negative, who are like, you know, and I'd say, well, why are you here then?
Yeah.
What are you
All
going
the
to do
time. All
different
the
than the last
time.
7 times?
All the time. And that's when it's in a first call, and it's really just go time. It's time for me to ask them the right questions and to get really innovative right then and there about how I'm going to approach their market. And if the problem is a strategy problem or a technique problem, or if it's a psychological problem, I'm going to just be very cutting right to the center of the dang thing as far as I'm able to be.
I love that.
And that's when I show my value. And people comment. And they're like, wow, I've talked to a lot of people, and this is like, I learned more in 30 minutes with you than I just did in a month with this other person. So like, how do I buy you? And that's why I market myself as a coach, not a consultant, and I keep it a lot more lightweight.
Good. All right. So tactical advice on the way out. What is one piece of advice that you would give to those listeners out there saying, hey, what did you do on LinkedIn that worked that you think would help me that I'm probably not doing today?
Oh, one thing on LinkedIn.
Assume most people aren't doing most things.
They're not doing anything. You should be running, even without any messaging, you should be running some sales automation just to connect with your target buyer.
Yeah, boom.
With no message. At a very bare minimum.
No connect message, even if you have a message, right? I'm a no connect message kind of guy.
Exactly. And those people who connect with you they've opted in to being something, to being communicated with a little bit. And so there's a lot more openness out there than folks realize, especially on LinkedIn.
Yeah. That's a really good piece of advice. So don't take yourself too seriously. There's openness if you're willing to be open and be yourself. And I think that's as good as advice as you can get, because ultimately it's very easy to be consistent when you're just being yourself, because you never have to change and alter things. You can tweak things and make them better, but you don't have to be a different version of yourself. I think that's phenomenal advice, TJ. Where can people find you online? Your favorite place to be located? Let them know so they can find you.
Oh, LinkedIn's my favorite place. TJ Allison on LinkedIn. I'm also at tjallison.com.
Okay. TJ, I can tell you're going to do great things, man. Thanks for hopping on the Magnetic Podcast, brother. Keep it real. And everybody who's listening, I'm supposed to say this right now. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got over 8,000 plays in the last week. This has been phenomenal. So thank you. This is the Magnetic Podcast. He's TJ Allison. I'm Steve Schmidt. Peace out.